They shout to get attention. They don't wait their turn. No, we're not talking about children. We're talking about the White House press corps. Those men and women who will try just about anything to get the president to call on them. One of the brashest and most successful over the years happens to be a diminutive senior citizen. She's the reporter America has come to know simply as Sarah. Here's Josh Mankiewicz.
In an outstanding way. How many more we got?
On the budget.
Who's that voice I hear in the back? Could it be Sarah McClendon?
I want to ask you about gun control.
She's made rudeness a virtue.
Yes, Sarah.
So we hear a lot of talk.
In a town where waiting your turn is the order of every day, Sarah McClendon has spent her entire career fighting to get to the front of the line.
Sir, I want to ask you something. I think you are not...
You have the loudest voice. You right.
Do you have the loudest voice?
Sure, I had to. You have to. You're going to get anywhere in life.
For 51 years, Sarah has shouted at 11 U.S. presidents.
When you're at the White House, when you're at those press conferences, are you rude?
Oh, sometimes I am. Sometimes you have to be rude.
But
this is a question that will not wait. Well, if I wasn't aggressive, how in the world would I ever gotten anywhere? I'm a woman and I'm little. I got to do something to fight my way in there. It's fighting all the way.
Sarah McClendon works for the McClendon News Service, of which she is the owner, the assignment desk, the White House correspondent, and the editorial conscience.
Hi, Delbert. What's going on?
Sometimes she needs a wheelchair because of her arthritis, but Sarah still gets to the White House at least twice a week.
Hi. I'm asking questions for American people, and that could include bus drivers, the taxi drivers, big rich. The taxi drivers, when I ride in the taxis, they tell me every day, "Lady, you ask the questions I'd like to ask."
She's published by a few small papers in her native Texas, but presidents know her better than they know a lot of other reporters,
Problem like healthcare.
because Sarah simply will not be ignored.
Why can't we have a good system like that? And why can't we have a summit on healthcare?
I get the feeling you love giving the president hell.
Well, a lot of them deserve it.
Which one was your favorite?
Kennedy. And the reason for it, I didn't know anything about his sex life. I wasn't interested in that.
If you had known about his sex life, would you have printed it?
Oh, yes, I believe in printing everything except what time our troops are going to arrive against the enemy.
Which one gave you the hardest time?
Lyndon Johnson, no doubt about it.
Mr. President.
Miss McClendon.
Sir, the Constitution does not give you the right to carry on this war without permission from Congress. Why don't you clear up this matter with your critics by calling for a new vote in Congress on this matter?
Sarah, you don't always clear up your critics that easily.
I've heard that Lyndon Johnson would call publishers around Texas and tell them not to run Sarah McClendon's column.
He got me fired from 4 papers. As soon as he got to be president, he called in 2 of my bigger bosses and said, "I can't do my work and answer questions. Get out of here." Mr. President.
But Sarah survived, and a lot of presidents have learned the hard way that Sarah knows well the art of embarrassing the powerful.
Let's take a look at you and Richard Nixon.
There are 2 flagrant instances of intimidation and harassment. Can you do something about this, please, sir?
Miss McClendon, I'd better after the way you put that question.
10 minutes after he got off the stand, he started working on it to investigate what I was asking about.
But sometimes it's hard to figure out what Sarah is asking about.
And it says there's been a lot of sexist harassment of women.
Now, Sarah, just a minute here with the discussion, or we'll be getting an R rating.
Surrounded by a herd of reporters with a pack mentality, Sarah doesn't pay much attention to the news of the day. She likes asking presidents detailed questions, often about some seemingly insignificant part of public policy. But when Sarah asked President Nixon about money owed to veterans under the GI Bill,
This is a question which you very properly bring to the attention of the nation.
the White House moved the next day to fix the problem.
Sarah?
I want to tell you that I've just been in...
Even so, some of the better-known White House reporters tend to roll their eyes or make a face when Sarah asks a question. She's silly, they say, a nuisance. But one former competitor says she's doing the right thing.
All of us, particularly those who work for large news organizations, know how to ask the broad, large questions. And they're important. But the narrower questions never get asked unless someone like Sarah asks them.
A lot of your colleagues here seem embarrassed by her over the years.
I don't care. They shouldn't be embarrassed. They should get out and be more like her.
She has been nothing but independent since she came out of Tyler, Texas 85 years ago, the youngest of 9 children. Her mother was a suffragette who brought young Sarah to political rallies. Against tradition, Sarah moved to Missouri to go to journalism school. Later, she joined the Army and was sent to Washington as a public affairs officer. And she stayed there, first married, then separated, and supporting a daughter on her own.
May he protect.
In 1944, Sarah covered President Roosevelt for a Philadelphia newspaper. Although at the time, she was so intimidated, she never once asked FDR a question. But 2 years later, Sarah started her own news service, and she got over her shyness.
The journalist's credo is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Sarah McClendon has done at least half of that, better than anyone that I know. She has afflicted the comfortable till there's no tomorrow.
It's the kind of certainty that comes from a long history of fighting and winning. When Sarah came to Washington, only a few women were reporters. She fought to get into the all-male National Press Club. After 27 years, she won and was later elected its vice president.
And I don't care if they did have to go to the top to be answered. I want the answers, and I want them today.
Today, Sarah takes on female interns and trains them in the McClendon reporting style. Kara Swisher of the Washington Post got her start working for Sarah.
What's a typical Sarah day like?
She'd start in immediately. It's like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm going here, and I need this, immediately. Like, I'm sleeping. She's doing this 7 in the morning, it must have been.
I immediately start telephoning as much as possible to people because you have to get them early before they go to meetings.
She had this old jalopy that she'd get in and drive insanely. And she'd drive down to the White House. She'd be working the room, asking what's going on, driving the press aides crazy.
But if Sarah has a weak spot, it's her willingness to believe the latest totally unproven conspiracy theory, like the death squads operating out of the Justice Department, or the Nixon aide murdered during Watergate. Lately, she's been talking about the supposed murder of Clinton aide Vince Foster, despite official investigations that found Foster's death to be suicide.
Do you see how that fuels the impression that people have of you, that you're just kind of a flake?
Well, it may, but they should realize I'm not the only one who thinks this. A lot of other people think so, too.
Flaky? Perhaps. But Washington has always placed longevity ahead of everything else. This summer, politicians, press secretaries, and competitors gathered for Sarah's 85th birthday.
In her own way, she has a remarkable ability to be able to tell a person to go to hell in a way they look forward to the trip.
Sarah?
And even though she's seen as a troublemaker, some presidents like to flirt with the danger.
Would you resign your office under any circumstances?
Well, if you promise to run off with me, I might. But otherwise, I can't think of any reason. Yes, thank you.
I saw her recently. I was at a press conference. She was there with her walker, just rolling over to the press conference. And she was still like the Energizer Bunny, going on and on and on.
She's still going and going. To stay home would be to betray her readers and to miss the fun.
You're 85.
Yes, it doesn't hurt.
Isn't it about time for you to quit? Take it easy?
No, indeed.
You ever going to stop asking questions?
Heavens, no. Absolutely. Questions should be asked. I'm trying to make a bridge between the White House and the little people.
Still going and going. Last week, Sarah McClendon was in Mexico. No, not on vacation, on a lecture tour. And there's a new book coming out in September about her extraordinary life.